Hello and welcome to Week 6 Sports Illustrated's Winners Club, where we help you with your fantasy football lineups and your best bets. You can get the latest odds on SI Sportsbook. I am Bill Enright. With me, Jen Piacenti, Michael Fabiano. We have a game going on in London with the Jaguars up 17-13. James Robinson, Jalen Waddle, Marvin Jones all have touchdowns today so far. And then we have plenty more great NFL action throughout the day. Jen, I know we have your best bets, your player props. They're coming up in just a little bit. And then Fabs, I know we have your stardom, stidham. That analysis, that's going to come up in a little bit. But I want to answer people's questions right off the start of the show today. You can hit us up on YouTube if you're watching. Just enter the chat room. You can ask your questions there. If you're watching on Facebook, we'll answer your questions from Facebook. And, of course, on Twitter. Let's go with one of the questions from YouTube. This one is from G. And he wants to know if he should start Khalil Herbert or Javonte Williams. Jen, in a half-point PPR league, who do you like?
I really like Javonte Williams this week. The matchup is so juicy. And I know Melvin Gordon is still there, but he's been a little bit limited this week. Besides, the matchup is so good, they could both have big fantasy days.
Fabs, this one is from Chris. Not an ideal running back situation from Chris here. Nyheim Hines or Brandon Bolden in a half-point PPR?
Well, what I would do is get to church, maybe say a few prayers, right? Throw a few up to the Almighty, because this is a dart throw at best. I'd probably go with Nyheim Hines. I mean, they're playing the Texans, so the matchup is right, but you're probably not going to get a massive stat line from either one of these players.
All right, one more question from YouTube, then we'll move over to some Twitter questions. We got Brandon. Rashad Bateman. Is he making his debut today for the Ravens?
Yep.
He is in, the rookie for the Baltimore Ravens, Rashad Bateman, or Henry Ruggs, the second-year wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. Jen, in a PPR format, which one are you going with?
I have to go with Ruggs. He's the wide receiver one for Las Vegas. I know there's a lot of questions there, but Rashad Bateman, let's talk about Baltimore. Have we any evidence that they can support a third wide receiver so far? They've got Hollywood Brown. They got Mark Andrews. I know he's a talented rookie, but I think we just watch him on our bench this week and figure it out for next week.
If you see me glancing up at the screen, it's because I have a few Jaguars-Dolphins players in my fantasy lineups, and I want to make sure that that the right guys are getting the ball and scoring me some points. Let's jump over to some questions on Twitter. Fabs, we have a flex question from Jared, and Jared wants to know, who should he start, Khalil Herbert, Jacoby Myers, or Kadarius Toney in his flex spot?
I honestly like all three options, to be quite honest with you.
Good.
I always guess that it is a PPR league, right? So in that case, I'd probably go with Kadarius Toney. Normally, I'll go with the running back because I know the guaranteed touches will be there, especially for Herbert with the top two Bears running backs on the sidelines. But I'm going Kadarius Toney, who is active, and I feel like the Giants are probably going to have to throw the ball quite a bit to keep up with the Rams.
Jen, were you able to get Khalil Herbert in any of your leagues? Because I think we're going to get a lot of questions about him today.
I sure was not, though he did make the waiver wire article, so I guess that's just on me that I didn't get him. But no, I do not have Khalil Herbert in any leagues.
In the couple of leagues that I play with Fabs, every time I try to look up his name, there's Michael Fabiano. There's Michael Fabiano. There's Michael Fabiano. Always a week ahead, Fabs. Kudos to you for that.
I picked up Herbert last week because that's a strategy that you should use. If a guy goes down and you know that another player is going to end up being the guy behind him, always look and see if the player behind that player is available, because he probably will be, and you can kind of stash him and see what happens. I didn't expect Herbert to have more snaps or more touches last week than Damian Williams, but it happened, and in this case, now I could start Herbert.
All right, quick update from London. We have the Dolphins driving Tua Tagovailoa, a couple good passes down the field. They are inside the 10-yard line, but there's a flag. Again, there's 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Jags are winning 17-13. A couple more questions here. We have Tim has a wide receiver and a flex question. He needs two wide receivers, one flex. Out of the PPR options here, we have A.J. Brown and Allen Robinson, Darrell Mooney, Kadarius Toney, Javonte Williams, and Darrell Williams. Jen, why don't you take the wide receivers, and Fabs, we'll go to the flex for you.
Oh, man, this is a tricky one. A.J. Brown is going to be on a snap count, but I have to start him because he's probably the most talented out of this group, or certainly the most young and talented at the same time. And then I'm going to go with Darnell Mooney because he's been the #1 target in Chicago. But this is a tough question. The only one I'm sure I'm not playing is A-Rob, simply because they haven't been using him and because he's been dealing with a nagging ankle issue.
I said Darrell Mooney. I meant Darnell Mooney because he has Darrell Williams. Fabs, are you trying to get the Chiefs wide receiver or the Chiefs running back into the flex spot today?
See, but Kadarius Toney's interesting to me, right? I mean, again, game where the Rams are probably going to be ahead. The Giants are going to have a negative game script. I might go with the rookie there, to be honest. And I always go with the running backs. And I do like Darrell Williams. But Kadarius Toney, let's put it this way. If you're looking at your roster and you're looking at your opponent's roster and you feel like you're probably going to win this week, then the safer play would be to go with Darrell Williams. If you feel like you need a high upside player, then Kadarius Toney should be your flex.
All right, we just got a touchdown in London. Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa connected to Jalen Waddle for the second time today.
Ooh,
I just traded for Jalen Waddle in one of my leagues. Victory, I love that.
I told someone on Sirius XM last night to start Waddle over A-Rob, so I was sweating that one, so I feel okay now.
Waddle, 8 catches, 50 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Quite a productive day for
you know what? I feel like Devontae Parker, get healthy. Will Fuller, you guys are good. Take a few weeks off. We like a little Jalen Waddle in our lives.
There's a lot of injuries that I want to talk about today because I think a lot of people are, between the bye weeks and the injuries, there's a lot of holes in people's lineups. So, Jen, let's start with the players that are out for week 6.
Yeah, definitely out. Russell Wilson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenny Golladay, Jarvis Landry, and Sammy Watkins definitely out.
All right, let's go over to the running backs because there's a lot of them, right? And these are not just your RB2 flex kind of players. There's some legitimate running back ones that you took in the first or second round that are inactive for week 6. Run through the list.
Yeah, big guns out today. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, Chris Carson, Damian Williams, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire all out for today.
All right, so Fabs, with that laundry list of running backs that are not active today, we know that a lot of people handcuff their stud running backs, right? Or at least pick them up this week off of waivers. So of the handcuffs or of the the non-starters that are now starting today, who do you really like? Booker from the Giants, Chuba Hubbard from the Panthers, Darrell Williams from the Chiefs. There's a lot of decent options if you are looking for a replacement.
Chuba Hubbard, listen, man. I mean, like this guy, he's better than Mike Davis, right? And Mike Davis went out and had a pretty good season behind the injured Christian McCaffrey last year. He's looked good. Like he would have put up a better line against Cowboys if the Panthers weren't getting boat raced and had to basically eliminate the running game in the second half, right? So, and he looked really good last week. He's a good player. This is a guy who is very productive in college. Maybe not his last year in college, but the year before, very, very productive. So he is a guy who should be in lineups. Darrell Williams is also in the flex starter conversation, maybe a low RB2, depending on the size of your league. I don't love Booker, but you probably have to play him. The matchup's not good. Negative game script could be an issue for the Giants running game today. Again, there are players. I have to start David Johnson in one of my leagues. Do I like it? No, I hate it, but I have no choice because of all the injuries and the bye weeks. Set your lineup, do the best that you can, do your research, and whatever is going to happen will happen.
All right, Jen, let's get over to some good news. Who do we know that will be playing today? Who's active?
Well, lots of questionable guys that are active, so this is good news. Daniel Jones, Joe Mixon, who should be seeing a lot of snaps today, Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Gibson, Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, Damian Harris, Chase Edmonds, Allen Robinson, Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, and Mike Williams.
All right, let's get back to some of the questions because a lot of them are coming in through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching. We are answering your questions. The first one up is from Matt on YouTube, and he is in a league he has a lot of tight ends, which is a good problem to have. He has Dallas Goedert, he has Zach Ertz, he has Noah Fant, but he can only keep 2 of them, and he's in a league where the playoffs are the real playoffs. So the NFL playoffs in January, where you expect, a team like the Arizona Cardinals to make it, maybe not so much the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Fabs, of those 3 tight ends, which one should Matt keep?
So this is a strange format because they play right through the actual NFL playoffs, which means you have to value players differently. If it was regular situation, Noah Fant needs to be retained and Dallas Goedert needs to be retained, and Ertz would be the odd man out. I don't think the Eagles are making the playoffs. I don't think the Broncos are making the playoffs, to be quite honest with you. So you're going to have to keep one of them. And if you think the Cardinals are going to go to the playoffs, and right now they're looking pretty good as the undefeated team, you keep Ertz, and they'd probably end up keeping Noah Fant too, because I think the Broncos have a better shot to make the playoffs than Philadelphia does at this point. But that is a strange format. I'd actually like to get more information on that.
All right, let's go to Lucas's question. He wants to know if he should sell or hold on to Saquon Barkley. Jen, what do you think there?
I think I would just hold on to him, because what are you going to get if you sell him? Like, what kind of return are you expecting? I think the best thing to do, like, we know that there's a major scarcity at running backs. Keep him around, and if he comes back, he could help you win your league. Selling him, I don't think is going to get you very far.
All right, Fabs, let's go to your start and sit list for week number 6, which you can always find up on si.com/fantasy. We'll start with the quarterbacks. You have Matthew Stafford and Taylor Heineke. Hit him with the Hein going up against the Chiefs today.
I do that all the time on SiriusXM, desperately trying to get on the Howard Stern show.
Yeah.
And Richard Christie's my buddy, and I still haven't been able to get on. Richard, get on that. Anyways, yeah, Stafford is a very good play, a top 10 play against the Giants. He's looked extremely good in Sean McVay's offense. Taylor Heineke, we know that Terry McLaurin's active. That's good news. So against the Chiefs, and their defense has been bad. I mean, this is going to be a high-scoring game. SI Sportsbook has the over-under at, I believe, 56.5 the last time I looked. This should be a barn burner there in Washington. So start Heineke. I'm sitting Ryan Tannehill in a traditional league. The Buffalo Bills have given up 5 touchdowns and the fewest points to quarterbacks. Very bad matchup. And then Baker Mayfield. Hey, all the respect in the world. Last week, I didn't like you. You had 23 fantasy points. But can you do it again against the Cardinals? I don't think he can. He is more of a 2 QB league option for me.
Jen, what do you make of the Tennessee Titans? Because we just answered a question about A.J. Brown. We know Ryan Tannehill is on Fabs' sit list. Other than Derrick Henry, is there anyone that you have faith in from Tennessee?
No, but yet I think that if you have A.J. Brown, even on a snap count, you're probably playing him. And the same for Julio Jones. If you have those guys, you're probably playing them. You probably have to go with them. So no, I don't have a lot of faith in them, but you probably are playing them. Luckily, I don't have to make that decision in any leagues.
All right, let's move over to the running back spot for these starts. Fabs, you have your eyes on Darrell Henderson and Darrell Williams. And for sit, you're saying Chase Edmonds and Devontae Booker today. Tell us why.
Yeah, this is the Daryl and Daryl show. Remember that, Piacenti?
I do.
That's right. The Newhart show. And I think Enright is old enough to remember that show. You know who Bob Newhart is. So Darrell Henderson is a virtual must start. I have him as a borderline RB1 against the Giants. And then Darrell Williams, you know what? It's all about volume here. I think Jerick McKinnon will see some touches, but ultimately Williams will handle the goal line work, the early down work, and it's a piece of the Chiefs offense, which you want. And then these 2 running backs, you probably got to play them. Okay, I get it. But Chase Edmonds has got a bad matchup. The Browns have only given up 1 big game to a running back all year long. That was Austin Eckler. And Devontae Booker, I just don't like the game script scenario where the Giants are going to be playing from behind. Their offensive line is banged up. But Booker's a guy that a lot of people spent pretty significant fab budget on to acquire. So you probably have to play him. And this is where start and sit becomes a bit of a gray area, right? Sometimes you got to play guys with bad matchups and cross your fingers and hope for the best.
All right, let's look at the odds boost for the fabulous odds boost of the week based on Michael Fabiano's start and sit article. We went to SI Sportsbook and we said, hey, Fabs is really bullish on Darrell Williams and Darrell Henderson today. What kind of odds boost could we get? And it's plus 400 anytime touchdown for either of these players. Jen, I know we did one for you on Thursday night. It was Devontae Smith and Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz scored early, but we never got the Devontae Smith touchdown. But Fabs, we're banking on Darrell Henderson and Darrell Williams to score a touchdown today.
The matchup's right. Let's hope we can come through on that one. And and anybody who makes any kind of money on the boost, feel free to send a little my way or Piacenti's way. We'll take that.
Yeah, so again, it's Darrell Henderson and Darrell Williams. They both have to score a touchdown. This was boosted from plus 350. Now it's at plus 400. I like those odds.
I do too.
Darrell Henderson, when he's healthy, he runs the ball. He's talented. He runs the ball well. And again, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire out today, I think we're all pretty much very bullish on Darrell Williams.
Yeah, Darrell Williams and Darrell Henderson. They both are going to have huge games today. There's no question about it. Washington football team can't defend the run, and neither can the Giants. They're allowing the third most yards per attempt and 5 rushing touchdowns already. So I'm all in. We saw what Zeke did to them last week. Both of these guys are going to find the end zone. This is a no-brainer. You got to take this bet plus 400.
I mean, look at the smile on Fabs' face there.
Yeah,
it's almost like he knows this one's going to hit.
I was probably a lot happier.
I think you know this one's going to hit today. Plus 400 if you're in the state of Colorado. Go check it out, sisportsbook.com. All right, back to some more stardom and sit-em. We have wide receivers. Chase Claypool. Hey, there's no Juju Smith-Schuster, not just for week 6, the rest of the year. And then Michael Pittman Jr., he's been coming on strong for the Indianapolis Colts.
Right, and Claypool has become he's a must-start this week, without question. Seattle's defense has been very bad against wide receivers. So Deontay Johnson is a must-start. We all know that. But Claypool coming off a big game last week against Denver. Keep him in your lineups. And then Michael Pittman Jr., hey, you know what? You look at the numbers, and he's been pretty solid as a flex. Now, T.Y. is coming back, and T.Y. owns Houston. So that's really the only bit of concern I have. You know, how many of those targets go in the direction of T.Y. Hilton? I don't know what kind of rapport he has with Carson Wentz. We know Wentz has a rapport with Michael Pittman Jr., so he's a very nice flex option. And Allen Robinson, where have you gone, Mr. Robinson? Because you're the wide receiver 61 right now. That's not good. And they're throwing the ball 35% of the time. Justin Fields has not thrown the ball more than 20 times in a game in 3 starts. And I can't even put Robinson as a start against the Packers defense without Jair Alexander. I can't do it. So if you can sit him, I would. And then A.J. Brown, you got to play him. I get it, folks. But I'm not going to give you a curtain jerker to sit because that doesn't help you. Just keep in mind, A.J. Brown has got a bad matchup against the Bills. They have been very tough on wide receivers. Only one wide receiver has had 76 yards against them this year. Everybody else has been under that. And they have faced Tyreek Hill, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, some really good wide receivers. This is a bad matchup for A.J. Brown. You may want to fade him when you're going into that DFS matchup.
Wide receiver 61 for Allen Robinson. That's absolutely terrible.
That's the song. Where have you gone, Mr. Robinson?
I'm not going to sing because I have a cold and I'm a bad singer, but you can sing it all day long, Jen.
Jen, you have an amazing voice.
Oh, thank you. I mean, we can make it about James and make it a positive song.
Yeah.
Let's move on to tight end, and I want to introduce another song because we are the official fan club of Cordell Patterson here on the SI Winners Club and of Dawson Knox. And anytime he comes to a touchdown, I want everyone at home to start singing, "Come on, knock on my door." Jen, you have a much better voice than I do, but Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox, Fabs, those are 2 of your stardoms at tight end tonight.
Now you got that song in my head. I mean, come on, man. You know, so yeah, Dalton Schultz and Dawson Knox, both very good plays. You know, Schultz has been one of the top tight ends of fantasy football, despite being in an offense with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott has a lot of faith in him. The target share has been pretty favorable. Dawson Knox has been a touchdown machine, and the Titans, they've been good against tight ends, but they haven't played any good tight ends. So the numbers on paper are a bit deceiving. And the players just sit. Like David Njoku had a massive game last week, almost 28 points. He had 18 points in the previous 4 games, and the Cardinals are really tough on tight ends. And then Robert Tonyan, who's going to live on my sit-em list forever unless he starts scoring touchdowns. When you're a touchdown-dependent tight end and you don't score touchdowns, I can't play you. Robert Tonyan should be on the bench. And another quick little nugget about that game. Last 4 games in Chicago, Aaron Rodgers has been held under 16 fantasy points 3 times.
Wow. A little stat nugget there. All right, let's jump back into some questions because a lot of people want to set their lineups for week 6. The next question is from, I believe, Facebook. It's Furman. He needs one. Ramondre Stevenson, Naheem Hines, Dearness Johnson, David Johnson, or Demetric Felton. Jen, what do you think? Kind of maybe. Let's hope he's in like a 16-team league here.
Yeah, I guess that I will go Naheem Hines here simply because I think that he'll get some work and the Houston run defense stinks and he'll probably get a few catches. So good luck.
Back over to YouTube where, that Dudo5 wants to know if he should start Kareem Hunt or Antonio Gibson. Fabs, it's a non-PPR.
How do you not play both? What are you in a 5-team league? Really? Both. You play them both, but I have Hunt ranked ahead of Gibson.
Wade checks in on Facebook. He wants a stash player for the next couple of weeks. Jameis Winston or Matt Ryan or Carson Wentz. I guess a stash player for next week's bye.
I'm probably going to go Winston versus Seattle, believe it or not. The secondary's just been so terrible, and Michael Thomas is supposed to be back. So let's go that way.
Good call there. Yamil on YouTube wants to know Khalil Herbert. A lot of Khalil Herbert questions today. Or Darrell Williams. Which of these backups, Fabs, are you playing?
I have Williams ranked ahead of Herbert. It's very close. But again, Chiefs offense versus Bears offense, I'm going Chiefs.
And let's get one more from YouTube before we move on to Piacenti's player props. Julio Jones, Cortland Sutton, or Devontae Booker. Faz, what do you think about this flex option?
Ooh, I'm going Sutton. Julio against the Bills, do not like. Booker against the Rams, do not like. Cortland Sutton against the Raiders, I like.
Fabs, Jen, no interest in rolling with Julio with A.J. Brown being a little bit banged up?
I mean, like I said, in a lot of leagues, you're going to need to play, but not when you have an option like Cortland Sutton. No, you got to go Sutton.
All right, let's move over to Jen's player props. She has been on fire, making a lot of people a lot of money if you're following along with her bets, which you can do every week on si.com/betting. And then for the latest odds, go over to SI Sportsbook, sisportsbook.com. Jen, a little bit earlier, we reported that Tyson Williams is not going to play today. And even before that news was announced, you were on Latavius Murray's rushing prop at 42.5, and you're taking the over.
I'm definitely thinking the over here. The Chargers have allowed the most rushing yards this year and 5 rushing touchdowns. Murray has led the backfield for the last 2 weeks. Now we know Tyson Williams isn't going to be there. But here's the really good part. Guys, it's only 42.5 over at SI Sportsbook. At other sports books, this is a much higher floor. It's more like 45.5. So shop the value here. Go over to SI Sportsbook. Click the over.
All right, Sony Michel. We know that Darrell Henderson is on Fabs' start list this week, but you're eyeing up the other Rams running back, and that's Sony Michel.
Yeah, it's a super low yardage, 25.5 rushing yards. The Giants have allowed the 4th most rushing yards and the 3rd most yards per carry, 4.84. So this is kind of like the same bet we made last week for Pollard. And as we know, he smashed it. I'm not saying Sony Michel is Tony Pollard, but I think he can easily get over this. Michel played 34% of the snaps last week. He's been solid. Should they get out to a lead, they might let Darrell Henderson rest a little bit.
All right, quick break from the player props because it's 4th and 1 for Miami. Tua's in shotgun. I don't know if they're going to call a play here or they're just trying to draw the defense off sides. They're on their own 48. I think they should go for it. They're not going to call it. They're trying to get them off sides. I think this is a coward move here.
I'm so far behind in this game, it's ridiculous. So
I need the Jacksonville Jags to cover this 3.5-point spread.
Well, they're up 3 points.
Okay.
And they tried. There's 6 minutes left. And they try to draw the defense off sides on their own 48. They should have went for it there instead of putting the Jags on the other side of the field. That, to me, is a coward play. But let's go back to Jen's player props. Taylor Heineke. Hey, we just talked about him with Fab Stardom Sid'em, and you like the over in his passing touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, especially now that we know McLaurin is active. He's done this in 3 of his last 4 starts. Kansas City has allowed an average of 2 passing touchdowns per game and a whopping 9.30 yards per attempt. It's the highest game total of the week, as Fabs mentioned. So Tyler Heineke over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Did they just run what the heck just happened? I turned my eyes down for a second. The Dolphins have the ball. They punted. They have the ball. They're celebrating in the end zone. It touched Agnew from the Jaguars, and Miami didn't touch him. They'll replay that, and it didn't touch him. It almost nicked his finger, but he didn't get there. The Jags had the ball. No drama in London yet. J.D. McKissick, you're on Washington, huh? You like McKissick with the over 3.5 receptions?
Yeah, let's think about this. This makes total sense to me, and it's plus money, over 3.5 receptions, okay? So in the 2 games with really loose defenses where Washington was playing from behind, J.D. McKissick had 5 catches. If this is a shootout, it makes sense because he's the guy on 3rd and long. He's the guy in the 2-minute drill. For whatever reason, they don't use Antonio Gibson this way. So at plus money, I love it. Over 3.5 catches.
All right, the next player prop that you liked this week. Let me get back to my notes because I was checking out the stats because I was just looking up the over-under on the SI Sportsbook for the Chiefs-Washington game because we've been talking about it so much. It's at 54. Back to your player prop. So Brandon Cooks, anytime touchdown at plus 180.
Brandon Cooks, anytime touchdown. Here's the thing. The Colts have been terrible defending the red zone. They have allowed the most touchdowns to opposing wide receivers, 11. And I believe they've also allowed the most touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. So I know Davis Mills is nothing to get excited about, but Brandon Cooks is still seeing the majority of the target share of the looks in Houston. He was taken out of the game last week. They're going to get him back involved this week, and he's going to find the end zone.
All right, let's make sure that we promote that odds boost for Michael Fabiano as well, because this is a player prop parlay that you can only get on SI Sportsbook, and it's all based on Fabiano's excellent fantasy football research. Again, Darrell Henderson, Darrell Williams, anytime touchdown prop. It was plus 350. We boosted it all the way up to plus 400, and you can find that by going to sisportsbook.com. Fabs, out of Jen's player props, I mean, a lot of synergy here, right? Because you liked Darrell Henderson, she likes Sony Michel. So I'm expecting big rushing production from the Rams either way today against the Giants. You had Taylor Heineke in your stardom situm. She had the over on his receiving passing touchdowns. Also in that game, we talked a lot about the Chiefs in Washington. J.D. McKissick over 3.5 receptions. So I like it when we're all aligned in our analysis and insights.
Well, that's what happens when two bad defenses play against each other and the offenses are pretty good. And in Kansas City's case, they're very good. So there's some sleepers in that game too, right? Mecole Hardman, I mean, he's been better over 3 of the last 4 games. He's not putting up huge numbers, but like I would absolutely play him in DFS or flex him this week. And then on the Washington side, Ricky Seals-Jones.
That's where I was going.
He had a bunch of targets last week, and he played majority of the snaps. And who doesn't need a tight end right now? So he's also a player that folks can get out at a cheap number in DFS and maybe stream him this week because the tight end position is so thin.
The call stands in London. It was indeed a touchback that didn't stop the Dolphins from trying to challenge, ill-advised challenge by them. Jacksonville takes over with the ball on their own 20. They are down 20-17 with about 6 minutes and 40 seconds left. James Robinson's in the backfield. I want to see Trevor Lawrence get a game-winning drive here. I think we've seen a lot from this rookie so far. He turned the ball over a couple times already in this game, but I know I have a lot of shares of James Robinson on my fantasy teams. I'm not sure about you guys, but here's Laviska Shenault picking up about 8 yards in London. Any other questions that we can get to from Twitter? Try to help people with their start and sit questions for week 6. Try to get them that big W in their fantasy lineups. And also, if we didn't get to your question today, Kyle Wood is answering all your questions, SI_fantasy. If we can bring up some Twitter questions. If not, I can pull up, because Jen, I know you had a ton of questions.
20 of them on my tweet.
from your tweet, yeah. One of them is Tyler Lockett or Kadarius Toney. Which one do you like there, guys?
Oh, that's a tough.
Piacenti's like, ooh, almost like namaste, trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, because
I have Lockett ranked a few spots higher than Toney this week.
Yeah, I think you have to go Lockett. The matchup is so good. I know it's uncomfortable with Geno Smith there, but Toney's probably a little further on the depth chart. So I do think you have to go Lockett.
Chuba Hubbard or Kadarius Toney?
Hubbard.
Oh, you guys both said that like in tandem there. Brandon Cooks or Chuba Hubbard?
Hubbard.
I like Brandon Cooks to bust out in this game.
I do like Brandon Cooks, though, as you know.
I really do like Brandon Cooks in this game. I'd probably go with Cooks there, assuming PPR.
Hunter Renfrow, Odell Beckham Jr., or Alex Collins full point PPR?
I guess I have to go with OBJ, but I don't have to like it, do I?
You do. You have to go OBJ here.
Really? No Alex Collins against the Steelers?
No.
Their defense is too good?
The Steelers' defense has been really good against running backs. I mean, they have not given it up to backs this season. So,
if you have some more questions, please send them in. We'll be able to get to 1 or 2 more if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. A couple more questions that are flowing in on Twitter. I'm stealing a little bit from Kyle, who's doing the Twitter takeover. Standard league running backs: Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, James Conner, or Sony Michel?
Standard league, I think you're going to go James Conner, because all he does is score touchdowns. That's what they use him for, and that's all we're playing for in a standard league, really.
Yep.
Babs in a PPR: Zach Moss, Julio Jones, or Hunter Henry?
I'm going to go Zach Moss. I like the matchup. Hunter Henry, though, He's a very good play. It's hard for me to start a tight end over a running back in this scenario.
And the last question of the day, it's from Bray on YouTube. TJ Hawkinson or come on knocks on my door in a full point PPR league?
I think you're going to go TJ Hawkinson. As much as I love Dawson Knox, you're still kind of playing for the touchdown. He's further down the list of targets, and Hawkinson's way up there for Jared Goff. So I'm going to go Hawkinson.
All right. Marvin Jones just caught a beautiful pass from Trevor Lawrence. 6 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown from Marvin Jones today. James Robinson, 66 yards and a touchdown. We brought up Jalen Waddle before. He has 8 catches, 50 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki just went over the 100-yard mark, 7 catches for 110 yards. Fabs, any final thoughts before we go watch the rest of Week 6 action?
Yeah, folks, I know that you're struggling with lineup decisions because you've got 4 teams off or you've got injuries. Do your research, make the best decision you can, and let whatever is going to happen. Trust me, I'm in leagues where I have to start David Johnson or I had to think about Jerick McKinnon. I mean, this is where we're at right now with all these injuries. So it's unfortunate. You're not the only ones, and we're here for you.
Jen, any last word of advice before we end today's show?
I'm going to echo that. Look, everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's hurting. Everyone has bye week issues. Just set it and forget it. Don't freak out. And if you lose 1 week, it's just 1 week in a very long season. You will recover next week, and we'll help you do that right here.
All right. Jen and I will be back on Twitter Spaces tonight at 7:30 for our second edition of the Winners Club. For those that have been watching today, Fabs is an absolute trooper. He's a little bit under the weather. He's going to rest his throat, rest up a little bit, watch some games, and come back strong Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for all the writing that he does.
I was questionable with a non-COVID illness.
There you go.
But I battled through.
I love to hear it. Fabs, we hope you feel better. Jen and I back on Twitter Spaces tonight, 7:30 Eastern. We'll go over her player props from today, all the performances. If you want to brag about the studs on your fantasy team, and we'll preview tonight's Sunday Night Football game between the Steelers and the Seahawks. I'm taking the over in that one. Right now, it's only 42.5. But we'll be back tonight. And for today, best of luck in your matchups. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the NFL action.